Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my lives. I'm so glad you're here and listen to them and find them helpful. I get feedback from them and it seems to be helpful for folks. So I'm excited that you're here listening. So today we're going to be talking to Brittany Norman. She is a lead school counselor, and I thought she would be a great resource for us because she's going to have just so much knowledge of what it's like for kids when they go back to school, being on the inside. So let's get her on. If you have any questions, if you put them in the comments, I will, we can ask her those. So just write them in there, and I will definitely ask them for her. She can ask them if she sees them too. Hey,
Hey there. Can you hear me okay?
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Yes, this is my first live, so this is cool.
You're awesome for doing it. I know it can be kind of scary at first. Some people really, they just get too nervous. So I'm very happy.
I can definitely echo those sentiments. It was definitely intimidating, like accepting the live. It's like,
Yeah.
uh-oh, here we go.
And the more you do it, the easier it'll become. And you're so good at speaking anyway. So I'm sure you'll
Oh,
do many more
thanks.
after this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm glad you're here and we'll just get started. So first of all, before I start asking you questions and if anybody else has questions, tell us a little bit about you and what you do to help
Um,
families, kids.
Goodness, yes. So I feel like I do all the things, but as a school counselor, um, was the lead school counselor. I support quite a few school counselors in my school district. So just making sure that they have the tools and the resources and the professional development they need so that they can better serve families. Work really closely with our student support services department.
Hmm.
So that encompasses a lot of collaboration with our school social workers, school nurses, and of course administrators. And you can't forget the parents. We're always working with parents. So.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting because I work with parents too, and sometimes they don't even know all the resources a school might have. So what exactly would a school counselor do? And at what, like at different levels, what are some things they
Mhm.
would do to help?
No, it's so funny that you say that. It never fails. At least once or twice a week, I will find myself communicating with parents, and many of them just don't know, right?
Hmm.
And you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
But yes, so what that looks like, I'll kind of break it down by grade level. So elementary, a lot of times you'll see school counselors engage with students, whether they do classroom lessons, and a lot of those lessons are surrounded around character education. So, what does respect look like? What does self-discipline look
Hmm.
like? What does being a good friend look like, right?
Yeah.
Like, elementary, they're in those more developmental stages where you can kind of just help them to make good choices. As we get older, and in middle school, a lot of times those conversations change a little bit, right? So we're
Hmm.
still focusing on building relationships, but what do good relationships look like? What do positive relationships look
Hmm.
like? What does good friendship look like in middle school? Um, and then, of course, high school, we start getting into post-secondary education. So there's a lot of more of an academic focus. So what are your plans after high school? How do we help you get to those plans? So yes, you can see school counselors doing, again, all of the things, but
Hmm.
it looks like a lot of classroom education. Many times they will meet with students individually, and occasionally, if there is a need, you will see them pulling students in small groups to meet goals and just attain different things.
Very cool. So can a parent just like call the school and ask for the school counselor, or do they have to have a referral or something?
Um, no, actually, the beauty of a school, if there is a need, you can always reach out. I think with technology, we'll see a lot of our school counselors they're getting really tech savvy. So they
Yeah.
have either it's within the school or on the website, they have like whether it's QR codes or if there's a form that you want to fill out. Like if it's not necessarily if the student doesn't reach out, but if the parent is like, I think a school counselor might help us with this issue that we're seeing, they can simply, whether you just want to email them, you can always call them. I will say, Long and gone are the days of the school counselor probably sitting in their office waiting for something to do. We're
Can imagine.
constantly out and about and engaging. So, yes, you can certainly still call, but whether that's leaving a message, sending an email, if there is a communication tool that they prefer, certainly utilize whatever the school puts in place.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing all that because I know some people don't know and they get intimidated. And it's nice to know they can just reach out and exactly what the school counselor does. So, what do you
Yes.
So, as school is getting ready to start, in some places it already has started, what do you see as one of the biggest challenges students face like the first few weeks of school? And you can do it, I know at different levels, it's going to be different
Mhm.
things. What do you see as things that they're really struggling with?
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I will say probably the biggest thing that we're going to see as students get back into a routine is that adjustment, right? So, summertime, there's a lot less structure as
Mhm.
far as what the day to day looks like, whether you're going on vacations or whether you're just kind of relaxing at home, taking care of siblings. We know it looks different, very different from a day-to-day school, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of it is going to be getting back into the groove. One of the things across the state we're seeing is a lot of school districts are not banning, but they are limiting use of personal devices. So
Okay.
I will say that is a huge adjustment for a lot of students. If you've spent majority of your summer interacting with peers, playing games on a device, now you're having to sit and listen to someone.
Hard.
Your attention span probably has to adjust just a little.
Yeah, that's so hard. I mean, it is. I can imagine just the challenge that the students would feel in
And not
that.
just students, right? Think
Yeah.
about teachers too who have been off all
Mhm.
summer.
Yeah.
It's going to be an adjustment for a lot of folks. I will say that's probably the biggest one that we anticipate. And then going from having a lot more freedom and flexibility to perhaps having to sit for longer periods of time and listen and interact. It's just,
Yeah.
again, new processes. And I think we see that across all of our grade levels.
Yeah, I can understand that and I can totally relate. What do you think parents could do to prepare their kids so they're not in shock when they get there and there's no phone or there's no, like, it's just different. There, you can't just get up and go to the bathroom or you can't just go have a snack.
Yes, and it's so true. It's so true. I have a nephew who is 11, so he's going to middle school. So
That's
it's
exciting.
been interesting to kind of lean in and kind of talk with his parents, throughout the process. Um, but there's a lot. I will say the key that I have found that has been most successful, not just with my nephew, but with other friends I know who have kids, is starting that transition now.
Hmm.
What we're seeing a lot of is like, as you're getting to maybe those 2 weeks, go ahead and start in that routine. Getting to bed at a decent time, getting up at a decent time, establishing those routines. When you get up, what does that look like? Are you getting straight up? Are you stretching? Are you going to wash your face, brush your teeth? Like, are you doing all of the things, but really trying to build that routine? Same goes with technology, you know.
Hmm.
I will say, yes, for many parents, it is so easy to just give a device. But on the back end, taking those breaks, right? Because you're not going to have your phone while you're in school. So just getting them used to that, starting that routine a little bit early, even down to lunchtime. Like, hey,
Yes.
let's
Mhm.
go ahead. We're going to eat lunch at this time. Well, I haven't been eating lunch at this time. Well, no,
Mhm.
we got to get you back into the groove. Same with
Yeah.
snacks, right?
So true. So, so true. And what about those kids that are like anxious or nervous or have, especially some of the little ones with that separation anxiety that comes in, and the parents
Mhm.
just want to stand there with their kids and want to hold them and walk them to class? And
Mhm.
how do you help parents and kids through that? And how does the school counselor maybe help families with that?
And I will say we see this mainly with our elementary
Yeah,
folks,
with the
right?
little ones. Yeah.
We have schools, they do a pretty, especially our elementary schools, they do a really good job of trying to help ease parents into the
Yeah.
transition. What we find many times, I will just say in my experience, a lot of times the students end up being a lot better than the parents. So,
Yes.
it's like you're feeding into, it's almost like a codependency, if you will.
Hmm.
Not a bad thing, right? right? Because especially the kinders, right? Like this is a major life transition.
Yes.
So as school counselors, we really try to work with parents, right? We talk to them, we acknowledge what they're feeling. That's important, right? We
Yeah.
don't want to discount or discredit what they're feeling. Your feelings are valid, right? So really helping them to kind of work through that a little bit. And we've seen it where students do kind of feed into the energy that the parents are putting off. So helping them to see that it's not going to be so bad. What we've always done is try to encourage parents to start having those conversations with students early. Like you're going to be going to school. How do you feel? I'm feeling kind of uneasy. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Like, what is it? What are the worries? What are the reservations? What are the fears? Let's go through some of those because a lot of times what those fears are not really fears, right? It's just a lot of kind of demystifying,
Yeah.
mythifying, if you will, like a lot of the things, whether they've been told or maybe they've seen something on TV and they're like, it's a lot of that. And the same with parents. We know, especially as they're younger, you you are you're trusting this person that you just met with your child.
Yeah.
Like we understand, and knowing that, and addressing that with the parents. What are your fears? What are your concerns? What are your worries? And then explaining to them what the day to day looks like, right?
Yes.
As
Yeah.
you're going through the process, well, here's what it looks like on a day to day. Here's, walking them through. Here's where your cubby is going to be. Here's where you're going to sit. Like letting them see this is where we're going to go for lunch. And just really breaking it down because I think there is still, and I think even as adults, we're guilty of it, just the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how do we make well, how do we inform ourselves so that we're making good decisions and that we're telling people like it's okay to feel what you're feeling, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, if you do have questions, please ask.
It's so good. And one of the things that I did with my son, and then I share with is like you can go to the library, you can get books about like the first day of school and reading like with your little ones before they go. Is real. Kids love that, and like you said, the kids feed off of our energy, and so if we're freaking out, which we are, because it's hard to let our little ones go, um, they're gonna see that. So you have to freak out after they leave. They're in school.
Right. But
Go
let's
with
be real, that's very hard to do,
It is
right?
so hard. Yeah, it is. So find some friends for yourself. I mean, I really say to moms too, is like finding that support for yourself because it is a
Hmm.
huge transition when you send those little ones off the first time for
Yeah,
you
and giving
and
yourself
them.
grace to feel the things,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
There's
Oh
a
my gosh.
time and a space for all of that.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, it can be hard.
Hmm.
Um, let me go. I have another question for you. Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, so for students, so this might be like older students or students that were in school previously, and they had a really not so great year. Maybe they got in trouble a lot, maybe their grades were terrible, and they just do not want to go to school. And they are like, school's not for me.
Mhm.
And the parents have to get them to go back. What's the best way to help them want to go back to a place that's so negative and been really
Mm.
negative?
No, I think that's a really good question. And I have to preface it with, every student is different.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, school counselors, one of the other trends that we're seeing is this lack of student engagement or lack of motivation.
Yeah.
Um, and I understand that, right? I think there's so many external factors that are playing into it. But, when we're faced with something like motivation, we know that we're kind of limited to our own locus of control, right? So it's like, what can we do to motivate the student? Especially if there was a previous school year that wasn't the most positive for whatever reason, right? So one of the things that really sticks out to me is to encourage students and families to let this be your reset. Hit the reset
Yeah.
over the summer. Understanding that you are kids and even when we were kids, we made some choices that we're not proud of, right?
Oh my
I'm
God, yeah.
sure everyone can go back and think of a moment where they made a choice and they were like, ugh, if I could do it all over again, I totally wouldn't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, sure.
understanding that this is a part of the process, especially in school, be grateful that these choices and these things are happening now. The important thing is that you learn from it, right? So that
Yeah,
it doesn't happen again. Because once you get out of school, I don't know that the rest of the world is going to be as gracious, right?
so true.
So, really trying to encourage parents to not just hit the reset, but see these things as things are going to happen. You know, students are going to make mistakes. They're still kids. The wires, and I don't know all of the neurological language, but everything's not connecting yet. We know the human brain is still developing, right? And so it's easy to say, oh, things were different in my day, right? I can certainly speak to that. Thank goodness all of the technology wasn't what it was
I know. I
now,
feel very
then what
lucky.
it is now, right? So I don't want to discount that, but we know on top of not being fully developed as, mentally, we know that there are other factors that we didn't experience. So again, extending that grace and understanding that you are going to make mistakes, but what's important is that you learn from those mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So really utilizing the summer as kind of hitting the reset button, even as you're setting up these new routines, right?
Hmm.
Like a part of this is we remember what happened last year, but we're not going to let that
Right.
impact this school year. Another tool I always encourage parents to do, especially in situations like this, reach out to the school administration, whether they were your administrators last year or you might have a brand new one, even a better opportunity because they can pull and they can see the records, right? They can see what happened last year. But if they know that you are committed to making this year a better year, they are going to be more apt to ensure that your goals are met, right? Communication is so, so important. I've had more conversations this year, probably than ever with parents on reach out to the school over the summer. School doesn't shut down. Administrators still work. We all work throughout the school year,
Mhm.
summer included. And this is really the best time before all of the students get back to go ahead and say, hey, listen, we understand what happened last year. We're trying to make sure that this doesn't happen this year. That also opens the door for any additional supports that may be helpful, right?
Yeah.
So if there were some things that the student was experiencing, this may be where the principal could say, hey, you know what? We might need to do some check-ins with our student services team. So whether that's the school counselor, maybe the school social worker, or if there is mental health support, some of our schools have school-based mental health clinicians. If there is a need for something like that, this is a great opportunity. Like, don't wait for something to happen and be
Yeah.
reactive. We want parents to go ahead and start those conversations early because the more we know, the better we can make informed decisions. But it's really about working together. That's really what it's about.
I love that. The prevention and then just the connection. It's funny because I've talked about this on here maybe and just in conversations with parents and colleagues. When I was in the schools, so when I grew up, my mom worked all the time. She didn't really have any connection with the school. She never was in, and I always felt like I was not fully part of it and always saw these other moms that were in the PTA and did all these things. And now after I've worked in the schools and I did see this, I parents that connect with the teachers, that connect with the administrators, there is something to be said for that. Even if you are a full-time working parent, when you build those connections and those relationships, those teachers and administrators are going to look at your kids differently. They're going to have a different sense of connection with them, and they're going to have a relationship, which is going to give
Mhm,
them empathy. It's going to give them more understanding of the whatever is going on. So I've really,
mhm,
really try to press for parents to connect with those teachers in a minute. Even
mhm,
if you're nervous, send them, I mean, just saying hello, going in for the
mhm,
teacher conference, whatever it is, but building those relationships because I do think the kids benefit from it
mhm,
so much. I mean, I've seen it firsthand when I worked in the schools. I've seen it as a parent myself, building those relationships and how teachers respond to my child. Um,
mhm.
so I cannot agree with you more that it's really important to build those
Oh,
connections.
for sure. And here's the thing. No one is going to know your child better than you, right? Like
Mhm.
you're handing them off to a teacher, but if the teacher doesn't have any context,
Yeah.
right? It makes it so much more challenging. And many times what we find is as a parent, again, you know your child best, but if you know that your child may like to wander off,
Yeah,
right? Those conversations are so
they are.
important early on. Hey, you know, I'll use my nephew for example, right? So, hey, his name's Bryce. Hey, you know, Bryce has this thing where he gets distracted easily, or I find him just daydreaming. Is there any way you can sit him up a little bit closer in the event he needs redirection?
So good.
Easy fix. Easy fix. It doesn't require a formal meeting. It does not require paperwork. But again, these are things that you don't just walk in and just dump it, but it starts with that relationship. That
Yeah.
relationship is so important because one, we know how hard it is, especially as the students get older. I feel like the class size increases.
Mm-hmm.
So and understandably, I will tell anyone, when you're having a conversation with a teacher, the teacher could address the whole class. But we know in those conversations, you don't care about the whole class. You care about your
One
child,
child.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can't ignore the fact that the teacher may have 25, 30 kids in a classroom
Yeah.
that all have different needs. And so, unless you are being preventative and you are letting them know up front, like, hey, you know, just kind of want to let you know if there's anything you need from me, or if there's anything that you can do just to maybe change seats so that, you know, they can be redirected easily, or anything like that. Teachers need that
Yeah, they
information,
do.
right? And it helps again to build that relationship, because I will tell you, even from an educator standpoint, we were always told to establish those relationships early, because you don't want your first interaction to be when there's an issue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You want that open communication for sure.
So true. It's funny. My son was, he went to Montessori before he was in traditional school. And his first year in traditional school was fourth grade. And I made sure that the teacher was very aware because Montessori is very free. He could get up and walk around. He could go to the bathroom when he wanted. And it was funny because about like the second week of school, he was letting her know he wasn't going to choose that lesson that they were doing because they get to choose
They
lessons.
do that in Montessori.
And so he wasn't choosing it. And so that could have been a whole different conversation of like, this kid doesn't want to do the work. He's being rude. Because another thing with him is he's very assertive. So he was choosing not to do that. But she knew the background, she knew the
Mhm.
history, and was like, oh, here it comes. This is the Montessori piece. And so we turned it into something more, a funny little thing between her and I, because we had already established a relationship, and then
Mhm.
had a conversation with him of like, okay, remember this is traditional, it's not Montessori, so you don't get to choose
Yeah.
the work. So it was really helpful that first year for us in a different type of a school because he did struggle a little bit initially just with
Mhm.
those routines. And I think the relationship piece really helped us.
Right. And how important is that context, right? Like
Mhm.
you got to think about it. If again, working in a school, it was hard for me because if you see a student that's refusing to do work, you know,
Yeah,
we're looking at this as like, what is this? Is this defiance? Is this
right.
insubordinance? Like what's happening? Um, but again, that context is so important. And I will tell you, in my experience with talking to families, again, the last thing we want is for anyone to develop these preconceived notions about students that aren't true, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
again, use that opportunity when you're building that relationship, provide some context. Even if, take for example, what we mentioned earlier, if you're coming to a school and you're coming from a different background, we're seeing, you know, a lot of students, whether they're coming from a virtual setting, they're coming from a homeschool setting, a private school
Mhm.
setting. So we're seeing such
Yeah.
so much more like diversity in
Yeah.
education, Montessori, for example, right? So
Yeah.
so you're seeing this, giving that context because you have to understand that your own policies and procedures, right?
Yeah.
So as a school, knowing that you won't be able to just get up and use the restroom, but also letting the teacher know, hey, I've run this by him, but he may just need a reminder because,
Right.
again, he spent a lot of time with a lot more freedom and flexibility. So that it doesn't turn into a disciplinary referral, right?
Right.
It's not a bad call home. It's more so, hey, just want to let you know, I let him know that he got up to go to the restroom, and I just reminded him. And on the back end, it's teamwork is so important because
Yeah.
on the back end, the teacher could say, hey, just want to let you know this happened. If you
Yep.
could just revisit that, because it's almost like if you've ever had a puppy, it's like crate training, right? It
Yeah.
is no, you got to work together,
Yeah.
we've got to do this in tandem because if not, they're not going to retain it and it's not going to stick. So it's just so important that you work together and you stay consistent.
Yeah. So good, Brittany. Yes, I cannot um, agree more on that. All right, so we're almost done.
Okay.
What are you most looking forward to this school year for your students and counselors and
Mm.
teachers?
I think I'm probably most excited for, um, that's a good question. If I had to say, I think this is a new year, but it's also a new opportunity. So whenever I'm working with, whether it's the counselors, whether it's students, whether it's families, there's just this year, let this be an opportunity to unlock your fullest potential. And whatever that looks like, right? We all have different goals. We all are at different points in our lives, right? So whether that's professionally, whether that's personally, I'm speaking to the adults here, but whatever that is, let this year be your opportunity to reset and refocus, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and even with students, same thing. Let this be the year that you unlock your fullest potential. So if you like science, see what else you can do with it. Are there
Mhm.
clubs that you can get involved in? Are
Mm.
there sports you've been wanting to try out for? Just really tapping in and stretching yourself. Like use this as an opportunity to grow in whatever that looks like for you. So I think for me, I always see like this is like the new year. This is like my
Yeah.
January, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is our new year, new us, new focus. So it kind of gets me out of the January New Year's resolutions, but this is like really a time to just re-strategize, refocus on your goals. What do you want your goals to be? And I encourage parents to do this too, right?
Yeah.
Set goals at home. What are some family goals? And they don't necessarily all have to be school related, but yes, where parents have professional goals, kids can have school goals. What does that look like? If attendance has been an issue, okay, let's set a goal around attendance.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Here's the thing, school's gonna be there, right? Like you gotta go. So why not make the best of it,
Yeah.
right? So whatever
Exactly.
that looks like for you, set a goal. Have accountability partners in school and out, right?
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
it make it fun. Because here's the thing. Your year is going to be what you make it.
Mhm.
And don't just set goals, but build some action steps behind those goals. What does that look like? What do you need to do to achieve those goals?
Mhm.
And check in on them. I think, again, there is power in community.
Yeah.
And so, whether you're building that community in your home or outside your home, use this as an opportunity to build together, to strengthen the relationships you have, and work on building the ones that you're going to have.
Yeah. That's so good. I love it. I love it. All right. So we're going to set our goals.
There
I
you
know.
go, right?
Set my goals. It's funny because I always said I had two New Years. I had the January New Year and then the August New Year. I always love, and I still kind of do it because it's sort of stuck in my just self because I was
Once
in
an
schools for so.
educator, always an
Yeah,
educator. It
it's
doesn't
like
go
it's
anywhere.
August is here. So, well, thank you so much for joining me on here,
Oh,
and I really hope that folks get something out of this because I think you have some great information.
yeah, thank you guys so much. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. If you guys need anything, just let me know.
All right. Have a great year.
All right. Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Oops. See if I can end this. Why is this not ending? There you go.